Hello and welcome to Story Untold. I'm Martin Bauman. My guest this week just got signed by the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but his story begins a long way away. Okafor grew up in Enugu, Nigeria, and didn't touch a football for 3/4 of his life. In fact, he was more of a basketball fan. He came to Canada for university hoping to become a doctor, and ended up falling in love with the sport in Prince Edward Island. It took him to Antigonish, Nova Scotia, where he suited up for the X-Men and won back-to-back Atlantic University Championships. And just this past May, he graduated university, saw his family for the first time in 6 years, and got drafted into the CFL. Here's his story. The first thing I want to know is, so you come to Canada from Nigeria.
Yeah.
And the city that you're from is pretty big, too, over 700,000 people.
Yeah.
How do you pick PEI, of all places, and say, that's where I'm going to go?
It was a little bit of a random decision. My cousin went to school at Queen's University at the time, and he just always wanted me to come to Canada for school. It was just something he always just told me, like, you need to come out to Canada for school, it's great and everything. So I ended up applying to, like, a couple universities, and PEI was, like, it was random, but at the same time, it was, like, one of the more affordable options, I guess I should say. And so, yeah, that's how I just picked PEI and didn't know what to expect, but yeah.
The rest is history. You just got drafted by the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and to think 6 years ago you'd never played a down of football,
Yeah.
and you'd come to Canada from halfway across the world.
Yeah.
What goes through your head when you think about the path that your life has taken you over these past 6 years?
It's been, the biggest thing is just, it's been a blessing, I've just been blessed with the opportunities and, with the people I've met along the way. It's been a journey for sure, just 6 years ago, I came to Canada for school, for sciences, actually. And, my plan was to, study sciences and then get to med school and all that stuff. And then ended up now 6 years later, I'm drafted by Hamilton Tiger Cats and I'm playing football. So it's been, for me, it's been a blessing and, it's just been great. I've met a lot of great people who helped me along the way and it's been amazing.
Okay, I want to get to know a little bit about your hometown first of all. So how would you describe it to someone who has never been there?
It's very different to what anyone out here is used to. It's a city, but it's a mix of like a city and town. It's kind of a mix of both. It's not like one of the busiest cities in Nigeria as well. So it's not quiet, but it's definitely not quiet, but it's not as busy as the busier cities in Nigeria as well. But it is kind of busy, different, it's very diverse in terms of, for just one city, it's definitely very diverse. And, yeah.
And so for someone who, what is the city that you come from?
Enugu, Nigeria.
Enugu.
Yeah.
And it has a reputation as well for being, it's called Nollywood too, right? What's that about?
Nollywood is like the movie industry, and it's like the Hollywood of Nigeria, and Enugu is like I don't know if I should call it the birthplace of Nollywood, but it's big on a lot of the movies that are made are usually in Enugu. So yeah.
Tell me about your family. How many people are in the house when you're growing up?
It's a family, my father, my mother, and family of 5 children, and it's 2 boys and 3 girls, and I'm the last of the 5. My brother, my 3 sisters, and then myself.
So you're the baby of the family.
Yeah, I'm the baby of the family, you can say.
And you're 6'3", 6'4", 270 pounds.
Yeah.
What is the rest of your family looking like, if that's the case?
Oh, definitely not even close to. My brother is about 5'8", maybe 5'9", barely 200 pounds, maybe. Probably the other tallest person would be about my sister, who's maybe 5'10". Yeah, so I'm definitely I'm the one who kind of
just sprouted from the rest of the family. Yeah.
Everyone else, yeah.
I mean, obviously playing American football for a living never really crossed your mind growing up in Nigeria, considering you hadn't played it down or
Yeah.
seen it in action before coming. What did you see your life looking like at that time? What path did you see your life going? You said you'd looked at going to university for science?
Yeah. Back home, I always wanted to study sciences. I always wanted to be a doctor, actually. But something I always really also like, soccer is like the main sport back home. Soccer is the football back home, actually. So when they say football, they refer to soccer back home. But one thing I always really liked was basketball. I was always just a fan of just basketball. I played a little bit of basketball. I never really liked soccer. That was just the truth. So basketball was something I always enjoyed, and I was kind of the different person who, while everyone else is playing soccer, I'm like trying to play basketball, but there's not really a lot of people who play basketball. But so I was I kind of had that, I don't know, that other sport in me, and when I got to UPI, actually one of the first things I did was try out for the basketball team, and I got cut after the first day, and so that was a dream crusher for me. But it was also everything happens for a reason. It was also just the way of life putting me in the right direction, I guess.
To be following basketball at the time in Nigeria, are you watching the NBA? And if so, are you following a team or what's the?
I was watching. As much as I could, I catch the NBA. It was it was hard, obviously the channels. It was hard back then to get to watch that. But Michael Jordan was, obviously, everyone knows Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was very
Yeah.
big, and I was just in love with Jordan. Just the idea. I didn't know a lot about him growing up, but I just knew of him, and I was just in love with the idea of Michael Jordan and the Kobe Bryant, and then 2003 the LeBron James. It was just I was just very fascinated with basketball always.
So you decide as a high school student, and part of this is your cousin convincing you to come to Canada.
Yeah.
That's the place for you to go for university. What did you know about Canada at the time?
I knew it was very cold. That was honestly the one thing that, if I knew anything I knew about Canada, was that it was very cold. My aunt had gone to Canada a couple times, and she'd always come back, and she'd tell us stories about how cold it was. And my cousin as well, he'd call me from Canada, and he'd just tell me like how cold it is. And so that was just one thing that I remember I was ready for. I got to Canada in August, and I had a winter jacket on when I got to the airport. And my cousin picked me up. He made me change in the airport, made me like take it all off and like put on like some warmer clothes, and it was very funny.
Tell me about that first winter for you to experience that for the first time.
It was honestly amazing. It was, at the time, it was one of the best feelings. It was where I lived in residence back at UPI my first year, and so it was a bunch of international students, and someone just came in and walked in. I was like, "Oh, it's snowing, it's snowing," and so we all went out. We had a great time. We played in the snow, and I went back in my room and I developed like frostbites on my fingers, and I just remember I was just in so much pain, and I was yelling like, "What is this? Like, like what's going on?" But yeah, it was definitely great. It was it was fun for that first day, and then after that, it was kind of like, okay, this is too cold. This is really cold. But I think I'm kind of a little bit more used to it now.
What about just the general culture shock of going from a country and a city where you're used to 30-degree weather and 700,000 people to small town PEI, maritime winters, much smaller atmosphere, the differences that you noticed there?
Honestly, the biggest, like, I really enjoyed PEI because everyone was just so, like, PEI, everyone was so nice in PEI. Like, it was just a great, everyone was very accepting, very welcoming, and it was amazing. I fell in love with it when I got there. Obviously the cold was one of them, but it was just, PI was great because they were just very accepting, and yeah, it made it better for me because obviously, like, moving from home by myself has been, well, like, the biggest challenge. So that, just like the acceptance of everyone and the welcome and atmosphere was amazing for me. It really just helped make everything smoother.
So when you initially came, you had your cousin that was there to welcome you. That was in like Toronto Airport or where?
Yeah, he was in Toronto Airport. He picked me up. We went to his place in Kingston, and I spent about a week with him before I went on my own. He just kind of, just just let me get my feet wet a little bit, and then I went down to PI.
So and then did you fly out to PEI or did you drive or
Yeah, I flew to PI from Kingston.
what was that moment like where the plane lands and you're stepping out into the airport and you're by yourself?
Yeah, it was like, oh, this is it, like, like, finally, like, I'm by myself now. And there was actually someone who came to pick me up because we had the international student orientation. So luckily there was someone to pick me up, and so yeah, it was definitely, it was like, this is it, I'm by myself now. So
You mentioned you tried out for the basketball team,
mhm.
and that didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
What was your first exposure then to American football?
Oh, there was a guy who was on the basketball team at the time, by the name of Olin Smith, and me and him ended up becoming really close friends. So his cousin, who was Demetrius Ferguson, played on the Holland College football team at the time. So Olin talked to me about playing football and all this stuff. I went to a game to watch Holland College play, and it was something I thought about for a while. I also met another player, AJ, who I saw him at the mall. He had his football helmet on and he wore it in his hand. I just remember walking up to him and I was like, "Can I see that?" I took a look at it and I just kind of soaked it all in. Looked up videos, and then he introduced me to Demetrius Ferguson, and everything else was just history. Demetrius took me in. He took me under his wings. He started working out with me, showing me, just teaching me about the game, and just getting me ready for, if I ever wanted to play football. And I ended up playing football at Holland College for a year.
So what was it about the game that attracted you to it? What was the selling point for it that you thought this might be for me?
It was honestly a lot. It was like, it's hard to pinpoint something. It was something, I don't know. Like, I literally just fell in love with football once. Like, after when I watched the game at first, it was kind of, it was different. I didn't get it, just a bunch of helmets just going at each other. That's what it looked like from, the stands. And for someone who just came from Nigeria, like, I didn't, it didn't make any sense. But, when I actually looked into it and, I really fell in love with it. And at the time, there was OC Euro. He played for the Giants. He was a defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. And he was also from Nigeria. So that right there, when I found that out, that just like, it was just like, okay, like, I looked more into it, and yeah, then, Holland College was amazing as well. They were very patient. They were just very, very, they made the game very easy for me, and just, it was amazing. I just fell in love with the game in general, everything about it.
So, and what took you from UPEI to Holland College then too?
Well, I was going to UPI, but I was playing football for Holland College.
Okay, so there's a arrangement there.
Yeah,
that
they have an arrangement with like certain number of students, I think, from UPI who could play on the Holland College team, and so that's what I was doing.
Tell me about Coach Paul and his influence on you.
Oh, Coach Paul Maines has been amazing. He was my D-line coach, and he was just great. Till this day, we still talk, we keep in touch. He's always just following me, telling me stuff I need to work on. He was a person who, he'd always sit down with me, watch film personally, and, tell me what he thinks I need to do better. And he was also like, he wasn't just a coach, he was a friend, a little bit of a father figure. He just always, give me advice and in general. He was with me the whole way from my first day to now. He's been around, just always around, like, just a phone call away, a message away, and it's been great. He's amazing.
So you're at UPEI playing football at Holland College. What then takes you to Antigonish and St. FX?
So I played my first year at Holland College, and then I started getting some offers from universities to play at CIS level or U Sport level now.
Mhm.
And St. FX was the only university I'd visited on a recruiting trip. Every other school was over the phone, and St. FX, they brought me in at the time in January 2013 for a trip, and I just fell. And also, Demetrius Ferguson actually was going to school at St. FX as well, and also AJ, who both played at Holland College before I played at Holland College. And Demetrius was the one who basically brought me into the game, right? And so that was just a selling point for me. And I came, I visited, it was amazing. I had a great time, met the coaches, met the team, and it was just the brotherhood, the family feeling I received from St. FX was something I'd never experienced before, and I just fell in love with it, and it made my decision just way more. Like once I left St. FX and came back, I was like, okay, that's where I'm going for sure.
You mentioned Nigeria being a country that is soccer first and foremost.
Yeah.
When was the phone call or the Skype call back home when you tell your family, I'm playing, Canadian football? And what was their reaction to that?
It was it was till this day. It's something that my mom would always, she'd call me and she'd tell me to be careful and avoid anyone hitting you and all this. It was just a lot of the biggest. I think the biggest thing with the whole, it was a sport, and so everyone, okay, you're playing a sport, okay, but the biggest thing was when I had made a decision to switch from sciences to I just graduated with a business degree.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing was when I had to explain to them that basically because of football I can't keep up with sciences anymore, and so I'm gonna have to. That was the biggest challenge for me. Not even just telling them I'm playing the sport, was to tell them I'm changing my whole life at this point because of
Mm-hmm.
football. This game I just met, I just fell in love with, and so yeah, that was definitely a conversation, a couple conversations over Skype with my dad, and my mom was more understanding, but my dad, I had to really convince him. And but now, now they've been great. They've been supporting me. They're 100% on my side, and it was amazing to have my dad actually here. He was here last weekend, so he was here for the draft as well. So it was just great for him to actually see firsthand, a little bit of what it's like and what it's all about. It was great.
Because still up until this point, I mean, your parents haven't been able to actually see you on the field and playing, have they?
Exactly, they haven't seen me, and it's very tough for them. They don't understand the game. They have no clue what's going on. I send them videos sometimes, and I tell them, "Oh, watch this number. That's my number 98. That's me." And like it's tough for them to understand it, but they just see me like hitting people, and my mom will message me and she say, "Oh my goodness, like, are you okay?" Like, but yeah, it's just great. It's amazing also just to have them from that perspective as well, that they don't really get it. It's also fun because there's always it's always challenging for me to explain something new to them and kind of get them a little bit more to understand. And they've been picking it up slowly, very slowly, but they've been picking it up slowly. It's been great.
Do either of them come from sports backgrounds, playing something at all?
My mom, more of my mom. My mom's side is the more sports oriented. My mom played a little bit of volleyball back in high school. My dad obviously played a little bit of soccer, just like back in high school as well. But my mom's side is the side where my mom's family, I guess I should say, is the side like my mom's brother's son now actually just also got drafted into the NFL, plays for the Vikings now. So that side of the family is the more athletic side, I should say, the more sports oriented side. They have the bigger physique, and I have a couple uncles who grew up in the States, so their kids have kind of been into sports.
How close are you and your cousin as your parallel football journeys were going on when you kind of became aware that I've got this cousin who's going on the same path as I am right now?
Yeah, it's been great. We actually got closer after I started playing football. When I started playing football was when I hadn't heard from him in a while, but after I started playing football was when we kind of reconnected and we became pretty close. And I'd always call him, he'd call me as well. Obviously played in NCAA, so it was, he had a different, very high level competition. So we talk, and he'd tell me stuff. I watch his videos, and even right before he got drafted as well, he called me. we had a nice conversation, and yeah, it's been great. We share kind of similar journeys now at this point.
So this a cousin of yours who grew up in the States or
Yeah,
had
he
lived in the
he grew
States
he
for?
grew up in the States. He was born, he was raised in the States. Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned the number 98. What does it have significance to you, or how did you come to pick that number?
Not really. It was a random. Actually, I originally my number was 99, but someone else took the jersey number, and I ended up with 98. But I love the number 98. Right when I got the number, I found out about Ryan Orakpo, another Nigerian who was in the NFL at the time,
Hmm.
also a defensive end, and he was a 98 at the time. So right there, he was playing with the Washington Redskins, and so right then I also fell in love with the number 98, and yeah.
How did you end up on that side of the ball in the first place? What made you choose defense versus offense, or who steered you in that direction?
Defense was from the moment I watched my first couple football videos. I'd watched Ray Lewis. That was the first
Mm.
favorite football player, obviously. Just from someone who going on YouTube, typing in football videos, and Ray Lewis is the number one person who I saw, and just his passion, everything about him was, I fell in love with it. And so actually I wanted to be a linebacker. When after watching all those videos, like, okay, I'm gonna be a linebacker. And when I went to the Holland College, they had a spring tryout. I told the coaches that they asked me, okay, what do you think you want to play? Like, what do you think? And I said linebacker. That's the first thing I said. But they looked at me and they said, okay, like, how about you just go over there with the big man and we'll see from there. I had no clue. I thought I was going with the linebackers, and next thing they're saying, put your hand in the dirt and all this stuff, and that's ended up being a D lineman.
You mentioned there was a moment, you have to convince your family in a way, or tell them that you're going to change the course of your, schooling from science to business in order to really see what this football thing is all about, and invest the kind of time that you want to do in that. What is that time period like? Was that a hard conversation to have, and a challenging period for you, or what was your experience there?
Yeah, it was for me. It was very challenging. Before every conversation, I just I get my answers ready, and it was like an interview for me. I get everything ready, just what I was gonna say, but it was something that I think they got to just really, they saw it quickly, that it was something that they just saw the love I had for the, like, it was, I wasn't gonna change my mind, if that makes any sense. Like, it was just like I knew that there was a reason why I was playing football. I knew there was a reason why everything happened the way it happened. And I knew that this was going to lead to something. And I guess they saw that right away as well. Like, this is not just a phase or anything. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
they kind of, they picked that up quick, and they went along with it as well.
Was there a moment that told you, this was meant to be, and this is why football is where I am, I'm destined to be, I belong?
Honestly, from the start, like, when I got cut from the UPI basketball team, I was devastated. I was hurt. I was really hurt, especially just the fact that I was cut on the first day, and the way I was cut bad. The way I was cut was bad. Like, the coach in the scrimmage, I never played team basketball, so like the
Mm-hmm.
terminologies are different for me. So, when they're yelling the screens and big man screen,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't pick up on all that. So I was slow. I was trying to understand what's going on. So they stopped the scrimmage, and they asked me to leave the court. And the head coach, he had so on the first day, he called the names of who made it to the next day. And then if your name wasn't
Mm-hmm.
called, you obviously you didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember he went to call the names, and I walked up to him and I said, "Coach, you didn't get my name. You didn't get my name yet." And then he was just like, "Oh, it's fine, it's okay, big man. Like, don't worry about it." And right then I was like, "Oh, wow." So that was devastating after that. But the way everything worked out was just perfect. Like, right when I met Demetrius, and we had the first talk about football, and right when I met the coaches, most importantly at Holland College, there was actually on the first day of the tryouts that I went to, there was At the time, he was a scout for Toronto Argonauts, and he was there for I forget why he was there, but this was my first day of tryouts, and this guy from the Argos is there from the CFL, and I remember he came right up to me and had like a long conversation with me about, this is your first day, like, like we had a long talk. A guy who actually still, I still see him from time to time, and I still talk to him. He was at the CFL Combine, and he remembers this, and he started talking to me about playing defensive line, and he started showing me all these moves, rip, spin, and he told me on that day, he said, I'm gonna be looking out for you years from now, and and so like from every the way everything happened, I kind of saw it from the start, like, oh, like, I think this is it. Like, I really think this is it.
When you look at your time playing at St. FX, what's the game that you look back at and say that was the best game of my life so far?
The Lonely Bowl 2015 was the game where it was amazing. The way we won the game, the game was very emotional, and that was definitely a game that I'll always remember. It was an amazing game, and it was the first time we'd won the Lonely Bowl in 18 or 19 years. It was St. FX, and it was a very special moment. The year before, we made it to the Lonely Bowl and lost against the same team, Mount Allison, and also in their home field. And I never cried so much until I started playing football. Like, it was just there was this thing about the emotions, and which is like why I really fell in love with the game. It was just family brotherhood that I'd never felt. That I just felt. I started feeling when I remember the year before that 2015 Lonely Bowl. I remember looking at some of my teammates who were seniors. They were leaving after that year, and I just remember looking at all these guys crying, like they played 4 years university and they made it to the Lonely Bowl, but they never got to win. And I remember making a promise to one of them who was on the D-line with me as well. This was last year, and I told him, and this was just in the emotion. This was just at the time, this with the tears and everything. I remember telling him, like, I promise you I'm going to win this next year for you guys. And it was just the 2015 Lonely Bowl meant so much to me personally, just like, and I was the defensive player of the game as well. So like, it was amazing. It was amazing for sure.
Tell me about your last game of suiting up for St. FX and the emotions of that game.
Oh, my last game, honestly, last year wasn't my best game. I had injured my ankle. I had a bad high ankle sprain the game before that, unfortunately. And I was not healthy going into my last game, which was the Lonely Bowl again. But, it was something that was meant to happen. My coaches had told me how, they needed me in my presence and, as a captain, as a leader. And so I suited up for the game, but at the back of my head, I knew I wasn't healthy. But, we went in and, just leading up to the game, for the guys to just see me at least suit up and, give them their pregame speech and everything was amazing, the pump-up speech and everything. And, went into the game and right, like, on the first series, I got cut by one of the O-linemen and I re-injured my ankle, and so I couldn't even make it past the first quarter. But yeah, it was very sad. It was very emotional for me, just being my last game, university game. But I didn't think about it too much. It was great. The fact that they won was the best thing. Definitely, the fact that they were able to pull it off still was the best part of everything.
Off the field, what are you going to remember most about your time in Antigonish?
Oh man, the friendships, the friendships. I've made some amazing friendships out here. I've met a lot of people who really have become my brothers, and they're like family to me now. The friendships definitely is the biggest thing I'm going to remember, and I'm going to carry that forever.
There's a thing about Antigonish which I've learned, and it has to do with pizza. You could either be Team Wheel or Team Kenny's.
Yeah.
Where do you fall on that?
Personally, I'm definitely Team Kenny's. Personally, I'm a Kenny's guy. I'm definitely a Kenny's guy. Kenny's I think they have one of the best pizzas, and I think they have the best pizza in Antigonish, to be honest. But yeah, I'm definitely Team Kenny's.
And are you getting pizza with donair sauce, or is that not for you?
Definitely with donair sauce. But I tend to stay away from pizza a lot. But when I decide to treat myself, I'm going with donair sauce for sure. For sure.
Up until this graduation and your family, your dad coming to see you, It had been 6 years between leaving university and seeing some of your family again. What was that like to be away from them for so long and away from home for so long?
It was. It's been the toughest thing ever, just to be away from home, be away from family for so long. You get to everything that happens. You get to hear about it from a distance, and you can't do anything about it. Just in general, and just being away from the connection of family. Like it's been very hard. I think the biggest thing is just year by year going through like Christmas and things like that without actual family was definitely tough. But like I said, I've had amazing friends and made some amazing relationships. So there's always someone who wants me to come spend Christmas with them. And
Hmm.
whenever Easter or whatever, there's always someone who wants to spend some holiday with them. But also my cousin, I had another cousin who actually went to St. FX as well. He graduated last year, and he was here
Hmm.
for my graduation this year as well. So it was great when I came to St. FX to have a cousin, a family as well, who was here, and my cousin, and it definitely made everything much easier just having him around me for the 4 years I was at St. FX.
What have you learned about yourself in these past 6 years being away from home, figuring things out for yourself, so far from where you come from?
Um, I definitely learned that situations can make anyone mature just like that. As I left home when I was 18, so I had to mature very quick, very, very quick. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is just the maturity for me. Just the fact that I've been able to hold my own for so long without um, physically being around family has just been it's been really nice to see. And also the thought of always making sure that my parents, my family, I make them proud and make sure I don't do anything that causes harm to the family name or it causes stress to my parents or anything like that. It's always been at the back of my mind.
Aside from the family aspect of things, what is it that you miss most about home?
Oh man, just the feeling of home, the food, the atmosphere, just everything. The atmosphere, the food, the feel, the weather. At this point, I don't know. I don't know if I can take the weather. I think it's gonna be too hot for me if I go back home now. But yeah, the atmosphere, just everything. Yeah.
When that day comes, you finally make it back home. What's the first meal that you're asking for? You're expecting or you're hoping for as soon as you get home?
Rice and ofaku. It's a kind of stew, and you eat it with rice. And I haven't had that in so long, and that's the first thing I'm gonna ask my mom for.
So there's a moment when you graduate, and it happens a succession of things. So you graduate, I mean, family's there, and you get a call saying that you've been drafted by Hamilton.
Hmm.
How are you feeling about this next chapter and what's to come with the CFL?
I'm very excited. First of all, I'm very happy that I was drafted to Hamilton. They have a great organization. I met their D-line coach as well 2 years ago, Coach Dennis McPhee, and he had a little D-line clinic here at St. FX, so he came down. I met him. We had a nice talk. He showed me some things, and just talking to him as well after I got drafted, he called me up and we had a great chat. And I'm just really ready to get to work, and I'm just ready to get it going and show everyone what I'm about. I'm excited to work with them. I think it's an amazing fit for me, especially just coming out of university. I think Hamilton is the perfect fit for me at this point.
What does life look like after football for you when the day finally comes and you have to hang up the pads and put the cleats away? How do you see yourself spending your life?
Well, I'm thinking right now, currently, I'm thinking after I'm done football, I want to do something back home that has to do with sports. I'm not sure what exactly yet, but I know just my journey and the way I came out here and the way I found football and all that has been very inspiring. And I think that I want to kind of give that back. And I'm not sure exactly what, but I'm looking to do something with sports back home as well. So yeah, hopefully that all works out.
I'll just ask one last question to you. If you could fill in the blanks for me on this one, the key to life is what for you?
Happiness, because I think a lot of people find it very hard to figure out a happy place. But I've learned in the 6 years that, no matter what the circumstances, that it's still very easy to be happy. And a lot of it just comes from really learning yourself. Just sit back and get to understand who you are. And when you understand who you are, you're able to relate better with the world. And then you're happy. I think happiness is definitely the key to success and the key to life as well.
Thanks a lot for your time, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
That's it for the show. Thanks for listening, and I hope you liked it. Kay's a guy I've heard nothing but good things about, and except for his choice of pizza, I can't say anything bad about him. He's wearing number 98 for the Tiger Cats if you want to look out for him on the field this year. If you like the show, it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher. Go ahead and subscribe. You can also help me out by leaving a rating or a review, or pass it along to someone you think might enjoy it. Theme music for the show is by Dr. Turtle off the album You I'll Ah. I'm Martin Bauman, and this was A Story Untold. See you next time.